You've carried questions that no one else could see. The kind of questions that live behind your eyes when you smile. Why this pain? Why the delay? Why the rejection? Why does it feel like the doors keep closing, the silence keeps stretching, and the weight keeps growing? You've wondered if maybe you missed it, if maybe you misunderstood the call, or worse, if you were never chosen at all. But you need to hear this, and not just with your ears, but with your spirit. God is about to prove why he chose you. This is not a coincidence. This moment, this message, this interruption, in your day, it's divine. You are not here by accident. Heaven orchestrated this appointment because the ache in your soul has reached the throne and the time for silence is coming to an end. You are not reading encouragement. You are standing in front of confirmation. This is not motivational fluff. This is a sacred alignment between what has been whispered in the dark and what is about to be revealed in the light. So pause, exhale, and open this message not just with your mind but with your heart. Lay aside every defense you've built, every mask you've worn to survive, and dare to listen as someone who has been hidden, not discarded, set apart, not abandoned. This is for you, the one who's been tested in isolation, misunderstood in your process, and anointed in places no one applauded. If your spirit has been weary, if your prayers have gone unanswered, if your purpose feels buried beneath delay and disappointment, then understand this: you are the one he has been preparing. The crushing didn't disqualify you. The silence didn't cancel your calling. The waiting wasn't wasted. It was holy. It was surgical. It was protection. You've been kept out of view, not because you were forgotten, but because you were being formed in secret. The furnace was never meant to destroy you. It was forging the strength that you will need for where you're going. You were never overlooked. You were preserved. And now, the season is shifting. The evidence is coming. What heaven established in the unseen God is about to reveal without apology. The same you who cried in private will walk in power in public. And when people ask why, when they wonder how, when they look at you and don't understand what changed, you will have only one answer: because I was chosen, and now God is proving why. If this word pierced through your silence and found the questions you've been carrying in secret, comment below. 77. I was not forgotten. I was being formed. Let it be written in the spirit realm that you've heard the call, that you recognize the shift, that you're ready, not just to be encouraged, but to walk boldly in confirmation. This is your moment. This is your alignment. This is why you were chosen. You've walked through doors that never opened. You've knocked, prayed, fasted, hoped, and watched others walk into places you were sure were meant for you. Opportunities passed you by. People dismissed you. Circles excluded you. It didn't make sense. You gave, but the harvest never came. You served, but stayed unseen. You poured out, but remained empty. And somewhere in the silence you started wondering, did I miss it? Did God change his mind? But you need to know no door that truly belonged to your destiny was ever allowed to close without purpose. Every no, every redirection, every unanswered cry was a thread in the tapestry of protection. You weren't being denied. You were being hidden. Because God never exposes a vessel before it can carry the weight of glory he intends to pour into it. What felt like rejection was really preservation. What seemed like delay was divine strategy. You were never buried. You were planted. As C.S. Lewis wrote in letters to Malcolm chiefly on prayer, we may ignore, but we can nowhere evade the presence of God. The world is crowded with him. He walks everywhere, incognito. Your seasons of delay were not absences of God, but moments when his presence was working unseen, orchestrating your protection and preparation. Those closed doors were not denials, but divine interventions, ensuring you were hidden until your character could bear the weight of your calling. There's a difference between being overlooked and being reserved. You weren't passed over. You were set apart. While others ran ahead, you were being rooted deeper. While others built platforms, you were building character. Because what God is about to do through you, requires more than talent. It requires weight, depth, endurance, and heaven will not allow you to arrive at influence without the integrity to carry it. That's why it's taken longer. That's why the pressure has felt heavier, because the anointing on your life is not light, and neither is the calling. So don't curse the delay. Don't despise the silence. It wasn't punishment. It was alignment. You weren't ready yet, not because you were unworthy, but because you were chosen for something heavier, something sacred. And sacred things are never rushed. They are revealed in their time, in their fullness, in their glory. And now the ground is trembling beneath your feet, not because you're about to rise by your own strength, but because God is about to reveal what He's been building in you all along. He is about to prove why He chose you. There is a mark upon you, not one made by man, but one sealed in the Spirit. And though the world may not see it, hell does. That's why your battles have been different. That's why the pressure has felt unbearable at times. You weren't just going through life. You were going through refining, the kind of fire reserved only for those set apart. You've looked around and seen others thrive while you were breaking, others succeed while you were stripped. You tried to walk the same paths as they did, but your feet burned where theirs glided. What they carried lightly you could not. What they touched casually you were forbidden to touch. And somewhere along the way you thought something was wrong with you. But here's the truth. It wasn't weakness. It was consecration. Because when you carry a mantle, heaven intends to use the path will never feel familiar. It will feel lonely, isolated, heavy, because your call is not common. C.S. Lewis, in The Problem of Pain, wrote, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Your trials, your isolation, your burning paths were not signs of abandonment, but God's megaphone shouting through your pain to awaken the sacred purpose within you. What felt like punishment was the divine process of consecration setting you apart for a calling that others could not endure. You've been misunderstood by people who don't carry your fire. You've been criticized by those who couldn't endure what you've survived. But don't waste time trying to explain a process they were never meant to understand. They weren't there when God called you in secret. They weren't in the room when heaven whispered destiny over your life. And they won't be the ones to validate your next season because they didn't anoint you for it. God did. So stop comparing your journey. Stop shrinking your story to fit someone else's timeline. You were never made to blend in. The oil on your life requires a wilderness that others never had to walk through. That's why your door's closed. That's why your spirit has felt pressed, crushed, even near breaking. Because God has been extracting something eternal from you, something holy, something that can't be manufactured by platforms or applause. You carry the scent of surrender. You bear the scars of obedience. And that makes you dangerous to the darkness. That makes you a threat to the system. That makes you a target, but also a vessel of power. You've been tried in private, so you can be trusted in public. And now the one who called you in secret is preparing to confirm you in the open. God is about to prove why He chose you. Before David ever held a crown, he held a slingshot in silence. Before his name was sung in the streets, he was forgotten in the fields. Even his own father didn't consider him worthy of inclusion when the prophet came searching for a king. And yet he was the one heaven had already chosen. Not because he looked the part, not because he was first in line, but because his heart had already bowed in secret. While others practiced performance, David practiced presence. While others chased visibility, David was chasing God. And just like David, you were chosen before anyone knew your name. Not because of your qualifications or credentials, but because of your posture. Because heaven saw your yes before anyone else saw your face. You were called in the quiet, set apart in the shadows, marked while tending what seemed insignificant. And all the while you wondered if your season would ever come, if the pouring out would ever lead to rising up. But the fields were never a detour. They were the foundation. What looked like obscurity was actually holy ground. Every unnoticed act of obedience, every hidden sacrifice, every lonely night in the pasture was building an unseen strength within you. God was shaping you where no one else was clapping, because he didn't need an audience to affirm you. He only needed your surrender. And when the time came, heaven sent for David, not when he campaigned, not when he begged, but when the oil was ready, when the moment demanded the kind of character that only the wilderness could produce. And so it will be with you. You will not have to strive to be seen. You will not have to manipulate your way into visibility. When the time is right, the anointing will speak for itself. The call will find you. The oil will flow in front of those who never believed in you. And the crown will rest on a head that learned to bow first in secret. So do not despise your hidden years. Do not mourn the pasture, because the same God who trained David with lions and bears in silence is the one who has been training you. And just as the battlefield revealed what the field had built in David, your moment will come, and when it does, you will not falter, because you will have already been forged. God is about to prove why he chose you. You've questioned yourself in the quiet, haven't you? Wondered if the mistakes you made disqualified you, if the detours you took canceled the assignment. You've carried shame like a second skin, quiet, hidden but heavy. And somewhere along the way, you started believing the lie that because you failed, you must have forfeited your place. But hear this, and let it settle deeper than your wounds. You are still the one he chose, even after the breakdown, even after the compromise, even after the backslide, the silence, the season where your faith flickered so low you barely recognized yourself. You may have changed, but God didn't. His call wasn't fragile. His decision wasn't impulsive. He didn't choose you based on a moment. He chose you based on eternity. He factored in the fall before he gave the assignment. He saw the whole journey and still said, "That one, I want that one." Your brokenness didn't revoke your calling. It revealed your need for grace. And the beautiful, brutal truth is this: the oil flows best through cracks. What you thought would disqualify you has actually positioned you to carry greater glory, because you know what it is to fall. And more importantly, you know what it is to get back up. And now your obedience is no longer rooted in pride, but in awe. You serve not to earn, but because you've been rescued. And that makes you dangerous to darkness, because you don't need applause to keep going. You just need God. So stop apologizing for being chosen. Stop questioning what heaven already confirmed. The call still stands. The anointing is still yours. The mantle hasn't lifted, it's been deepened. And every scar you carry is now evidence that you survived the battle and lived to carry the fire. This next move of God in your life is not about making you look good. It's about proving his power through the very places that should have broken you. He's not ashamed to be seen with you. In fact, he's about to put you on display, not to glorify your perfection, but to magnify his mercy. There's a reason you've been hiding your gift, your voice, your dream, not because you're weak, but because you've been wounded. Life hit you hard. Rejection left a mark, and somewhere deep inside, a part of you decided it was safer to stay small, to stay invisible, to stay quiet. You weren't running from your calling, you were running from disappointment. Like Gideon, you've been threshing wheat in a winepress, surviving, not thriving, just trying to protect what little was left. But heaven never leaves warriors in hiding. And just like with Gideon, God knows exactly where to find you. He found Gideon in his lowest, most fearful moment. Not on a battlefield, not in a temple, in a winepress underground, unsure, unready. And when he spoke, he didn't speak to Gideon's fear. He didn't call him a failure. He called him what heaven had already written. Mighty warrior. Imagine that, being in your most fragile place, your most doubtful state, and hearing the voice of destiny call you by your future. That's what's happening right now. You're not being addressed by your weakness. You're being summoned by your purpose. Heaven never names you based on your current condition. It names you according to your eternal assignment. And even if you feel like the least in your family, the last on anyone's list, the most unqualified in the room, it doesn't matter, because you are not who people say you are. You are who heaven sent you to be. When Gideon tried to offer excuses, God offered only one answer: I will be with you. That was enough. Not a title, not a following, not a strategy, just presence. And that's your portion too. You don't need to be ready. You don't need to be recognized. You just need to be available. The God who called you will equip you. The God who chose you will carry you. And when Gideon finally rose, God didn't allow him to fight with what looked impressive. He stripped away the numbers. He reduced the army until all that remained was dependence. Why? Because the outcome had to be undeniably divine. No one could say it was strategy. No one could say it was luck. It had to be God, and that is the story being written over you. That's why your journey has been so hard. That's why the resources were few. That's why the timing never made sense. Because when the breakthrough comes, it will carry the fingerprints of heaven. No one will be able to deny it. Not even you. C.S. Lewis in Mere Christianity wrote, "It may be hard for an egg to turn into a bird. It would be a jolly sight harder for it to learn to fly while remaining an egg." Your time in hiding like Gideon in the winepress was not a failure, but the painful, necessary process of breaking free from the shell of fear and disappointment. Lewis's metaphor captures your transformation. You cannot soar into your divine purpose while clinging to the safety of your current state. Heaven is calling you to hatch, to rise to become the warrior God named you to be. There's a reason the battle for your soul has been relentless. There's a reason the enemy tried to silence your voice, fracture your confidence, and bury your calling beneath disappointment and delay. It's because you are not just carrying a testimony, you are becoming one. You are not just being restored for your own sake. You are being raised up as an answer. In a world starving for truth, drowning in deception and aching for something real, you are the evidence that God is still moving. You are living proof that mercy still reaches into the darkest places, that grace still chooses, the unlikely that heaven still plants purpose in people the world would overlook. Your survival is not random. Your scars are not shameful. Your voice is not small. It's sacred. What others see as just a life, heaven sees as a vessel of confirmation. You're not here to impress people. You're here to disrupt darkness. You've been kept not just for restoration, but for demonstration. The next chapter of your life is not about proving yourself to others. It's about God proving himself through you. When you walk into rooms, the atmosphere will shift, not because of who you are, but because of what you carry. When you speak, it won't just be words. It will be sound waves of surrender, echoing from the crushing, refined by fire, anointed through tears. And those who once doubted you will have no words left. They will see for themselves, surely the Lord was with them. You may not feel powerful, but it's not about feelings. It's about the fire that has not gone out even in the storm. You may not feel qualified, but what qualifies you is not perfection. It's endurance. It's the fact that you're still here, still believing, still surrendered, even after everything. This world doesn't need more polished sermons. It needs burning lives. And that is who you are. That is what you've become. Not just a story, not just a comeback. You are heaven's evidence. You've been through things that should have broken you completely. Things you didn't talk about, things no one knows in full. The betrayals, the nights of silence, the prayers that seemed to vanish into nothing. You've felt the weight of delay like a stone on your chest. You've walked through seasons where hope felt like a dangerous thing to hold. And maybe, if you were honest, you've wondered why a loving God would allow such crushing. But what felt like cruelty was never abandonment. It was preparation. It was holy pressure applied with precision. Because the greater the oil, the deeper the crushing must go. Heaven does not place anointing on surfaces. It places it on vessels that have been broken open. And that is what you are. A vessel not perfect, not polished, but surrendered. You were not crushed because you were weak. You were crushed because you were chosen. And in the hands of a sovereign God, crushing is not destruction, it's extraction. Every time your heart broke, heaven collected the oil. Every time you kept worshipping through tears, oil was being formed. Every time you chose to believe again after being disappointed, heaven marked the moment. You thought you were just surviving, but God was producing something eternal, something sacred, something weighty, oil that only comes from those who have bled in private, but still rose in obedience. This is why you couldn't quit, even when you tried. Why the fire didn't consume you, and the flood didn't drown you. Because God was protecting what he was producing. And now that the oil has been made ready, the time of pouring is near, the time of release, the time of evidence. And when the anointing begins to flow from your life, it will not just bless you, it will break chains off of others. It will heal. It will awaken. It will deliver. The same valley that nearly crushed you will become the place of divine outpouring. And the same pain that tried to bury you will become the platform God stands on to display his glory. So do not resent the process. Do not mourn the path. Because now the heavens are leaning low. The Spirit is ready. The oil is moving. And God is about to prove why he chose you. There were moments, private piercing moments, when you thought it was over. Not just the dream, but the destiny. You looked at yourself through the lens of shame, through the eyes of failure, and silently concluded, maybe I ruined it. Maybe I disqualified myself. You replayed every wrong turn, every hidden struggle, every time you fell short. And the voice of the accuser whispered in your ear, God can't use someone like you. But that voice lied. You were never disqualified. You were being deepened. The fall didn't forfeit your future. It fertilized your roots. Because God doesn't disqualify the broken, he draws them deeper. He doesn't discard those who stumble, he refines them in fire until they emerge with something unshakable character, forged in the dark, humility sealed in surrender, obedience unshaken by applause. Disqualification is the language of men, but heaven speaks differently. God looks at what others call disqualified and says, perfect. Now I can use them. Because now you understand, it's not about striving image or performance. It's about yes, a surrendered heart, a steady faith, a soul that says, even now I'm still yours. There's a holiness that only comes from surviving what should have shattered you. There's a wisdom that only forms in the ache of long silence. There's a fire that only burns in those who've been through the crushing and came out still reaching for God. And that is what lives in you now, not perfection but power, not performance but presence. You've become the kind of vessel that heaven can trust. So know you are not too late. You are not too far gone. You have not missed your moment. The calling still stands. The mantle still rests on your shoulders. The assignment is still alive, and now you're more ready than you've ever been, not because you're stronger, but because you're more surrendered. Let go of the guilt. Release the timeline. Dismantle the lie. You have not been replaced, you have been refined. You were never benched. You were being built. And now the time is near. The heavens are shifting. The trumpet is sounding. The earth is groaning for the sons and daughters to rise, and you are among them. The ones who were hidden, the ones who were broken, the ones who were left out, counted out, nearly taken out, but still you remain. You've walked in the shadows long enough, not because you lacked calling, but because heaven was still building the strength to carry it. You've labored in silence, wept in hidden places, obeyed without recognition. You've questioned whether your quiet faithfulness even mattered, if the unseen seeds you sowed would ever break the surface. But hear this now, with full authority. The unveiling has begun. Heaven never keeps what it intends to reveal, and what God has built in you privately, he is now preparing to release publicly, not for spectacle but for impact. This is not a season of being noticed. This is a season of being unveiled. The difference is holy. To be noticed is to chase attention. But to be unveiled is to walk into alignment with something heaven initiated before you ever spoke your first word. Everything in your life has been pointing to this moment, not a platform, not applause, but purpose. The long wait wasn't a delay. It was a preparation. You weren't being punished. You were being preserved. God was guarding what he treasured, hiding what he wasn't finished forming, because the weight of what you carry cannot be placed on shallow foundations. And now what has been cultivated in the dark is strong enough to carry light. This revealing will not require striving. You won't need to force open doors. You won't need to chase opportunity. What's coming is drawn to what you've become. The doors will open because of the oil. The favor will find you because of the fire. Not because of who sees you, but because of what you carry and because the time is right. You'll walk into rooms you didn't apply for. Speak into lives you never sought out. Release healing through words you once kept buried. Because now the hiding season has done its work. The crushing has completed its course. The silence has strengthened your sound. And now the wind is shifting. The veil is lifting. And the world is about to witness the emergence of one who did not rise through ambition but through brokenness. One who didn't force a calling but was faithful to it. One who endured the darkness, not just to survive, but to become. You are that one. And now God is about to prove why he chose you. This is the turning point, not because everything around you has changed, but because something inside you is finally ready to rise. You've spent long enough beneath the weight of doubt, draped in the garments of shame and silence. You've whispered, "I'm not ready," so many times that the words feel like truth. But they're not. They're residue from wounds you were never meant to carry into your calling. And now the time for hiding has ended, not with noise or chaos, but with holy clarity. Heaven is not demanding your perfection, it's asking for your surrender. The kind of surrender that says, "I don't have all the answers, but I will still say yes." You've been waiting for a sign, but this is the sign. You've been praying for confirmation, but the confirmation is already burning inside you. That stirring in your spirit, that unrest that won't let you settle for normal, that ache that won't be numbed by distraction, that's the call alive and relentless, refusing to let you forget who you are. And no, it's not too late. You didn't miss it. You didn't ruin it. The detours didn't disqualify you, they deepened you. They broke your pride. They crushed your self-reliance. They purified your yes. And now with trembling hands and an open heart, you are more ready than you've ever been. So come out of hiding. Come out from under the weight of delay, fear, and comparison. The world doesn't need another performer. It needs a vessel, one that has been through the fire and came out with oil, and that is who you are. Your story was never meant to end in survival. It was meant to echo in eternity as evidence that God still chooses the unlikely, the broken, the surrendered. You are not here to play it safe. You are here to shift the atmosphere, to carry glory, to walk in obedience even when it costs you comfort. And the mantle that rests on your life cannot sit in silence any longer. This is your moment, not of arrival but of release. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You only need to answer the one who called you in the dark. He has preserved you, prepared you, positioned you. And now the earth is groaning for the sons and daughters of God to rise. You are one of them, chosen, tried, ready, and everything that has fought against you will soon become the very platform that lifts you. The hiding season has done its work. The unveiling has begun, and now God is about to prove why he chose you.